check, check. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us to this youth panel discussion about a very important topic, which is sustainable aviation fuel, which is one of the major areas of focus globally in terms of energy transition, especially that the aviation sector is responsible for a good chunk of global emissions. With me here on the panel, obviously, we have the regulator of the aviation sector in Oman, my good friend, His Excellency Engineer Naif Al-Abri. And on my left, a policy maker, His Excellency Khamis Shammakhi from the Ministry of Transport. And we have people from the private sector internationally and locally as well. We also have Dr. Hamdan from the Ministry of Agriculture, Jane, Director of the Environmental Program at ICAO. We have a pilot who just flew in this morning from Thailand, Bangkok. I think most of us wouldn't mind being in Thailand right now. Pilot, great flight, yeah. Mauricio, pilot for Salam Air, and Ghalib Al-Ma'mari, who is the VP of Low Carbon Molecules at OQ. Thank you all for joining us. I think this is just going to be a really casual discussion. I'm sure most of you know sustainable aviation fuels, but maybe briefly. They are obviously forms of biofuels that can be used to power aircraft and obviously have a smaller footprint than the current conventional jet fuel. They can be produced from a variety of feedstocks, including waste oils, fats, agricultural residues, and algae. And obviously, hydrogen is needed in the hydrogenation process to produce it, and that's where clean or green hydrogen can come into the conversation as well. Obviously, in terms of the technicality, it is technically mature and can be used to power commercial aircraft without any major modifications. However, as with most molecules in the energy transition, they are currently more expensive to produce than conventional jet fuel. But a number of countries have actually taken policy. For example, the US has targeted 3 billion gallons per year of domestic SAF fuels. And just yesterday, the European Union actually approved what they call the Refuel EU Aviation Directive. And by 2030, they want at least 1.2% of the EU aviation fuel to come from green hydrogen-based synthetic fuels, such as SAFs. This will increase to reach 70% by 2050. So obviously, big ambitions, big expectations from the global community in this. And so basically, this session is to understand how Oman fits into this. What role can we play with our major green hydrogen projects that were announced with our geographical locations? So maybe, I would start off with His Excellency Engineer Naif and, ask you an obvious question is, what are the key challenges to increasing the use of SAFs in Oman from a regulator perspective or regulation perspective?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam, ashraf al-anbiya wal mursaleen. Thank you, Dr. Mohab, and I would like to extend a warm welcome to our guests to CEA. And it's a privilege having this youth session. It always gives me energy because I'm not part of the youth anymore. You come to a tipping point that you're not in the youth arena. So I would like to welcome you. And really, the focus of this forum is to have a platform of collaboration, a platform of really understanding what the topic is all about, and really to bring sectors together. I think that's key. Today, as much as the aviation sector is the beneficiary of all this, there are definitely key sectors, and mainly I would say the energy and the transportation, but also when it comes to the innovation and research sector. These are the supporting sectors that should be feeding into these, and that's why the presence of yourselves, for example, who are in academia and so forth. I think from a regulator perspective, we are very much linked to what ICAO is doing. If we look at the big picture, the key North Star for us today is the LTAG. And I think probably we are the only sector globally that has committed to a North Star. Normally, the net zeros and what have you are commitment from a nation perspective. But as a sector, I think aviation is the only sector that has committed globally. And this is a big plus today to everyone. And this has been, coming through, discussions over the years. So we have a North Star for us as sectors within nations. Now, how do you translate that North Star to a local perspective? I think that's where our teams are, discussing the details with the various operators and also us as a regulator, putting those into regulators and civil aviation regulations and what have you. And we have started the path. Are we fully fledged today? No. I think as an outcome of the forum itself is really the exposure and exchange of where other nations are coming. For example, Engineer Mariam Al-Blushi is representing UAE, and mashallah, she's an expert in her own area. The presence of such talents, and we have our colleagues also from Saudi Arabia, for example, and the likewise, Sky Energy, for example, experts from Sky Energy, and the ICAO input with the presence of Jane here. This is the exchange that we hopefully will take us to the next step in really putting around the framework that we as regulators would then work with the sector to ensure that that is going to be implemented in the coming years.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. First, my apologies. Ms. Mariam Al-Blushi is also joining us on the panel from the CEA UAE. My apologies. And Dr. Alejandro from Khalifa Universities. Thank you, Engineer Naif, for this. I think then it's clear that the world is moving towards these renewables and these energy transitions. And on my left here is obviously a senior executive in the government who is a policy maker. So we'll take this advantage and obviously ask them what are Oman government's policies and initiatives to promote the use of SAFs and other renewable energies, specifically in the aviation sector.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. طبعا شكرا دكتور والإخوان جميعا. I think it's very great opportunity that we speak about this subject, especially with all the young faces here. Yeah, the next generation. In terms of I think the strategy here in Oman, government already had a very clear, ambitious strategy in terms of the net zero. So the 2050 decarbonization plan being announced and being committed, not just to the citizen, but being committed to the outside as well. Yeah, so for us, it's not a choice anymore. It's a must. Talking about the transportation, transportation is one of the 5 pillars that were part of this national decarbonization strategy and plan. And there's a good reason for that, because we're responsible for 30%. If I add the maritime of the CO2 emission and the other non-welcomed emissions, the 20% of that is just the land transportation. So that's why the transportation is an important pillar into this. And we've started last year as part of the national lab for the net zero plans in the government. And out of that first set of workshops, we came up with around 18 initiatives that will focus on decarbonizing the transportation sector. And that will focus just on the land transportation and the maritime with the ports, and then on top what just His Excellency Engineer Naif mentioned about the aviation. Yeah. So I think we have good set of initiatives to start with. We also endorsed a good set of incentives and facilities that been also endorsed by the cabinet of the ministers, and we were the first, or one of the first in the region, that we announced a good or a set of incentives. Yeah. Majority of them are focusing on the use of the EVs, because EV is our maybe the first focus, but then also the second focus, which is the other introduction of the other ways and means of the clean energy, mainly hydrogen, and the biofuel as well. Yeah. So I think in terms of incentives, facilities, plans, and of course strategies, I think everything is in place. And as a country, I think we do have what it takes to go into this. Yeah.
Much for this elaborate answer, Your Excellency. I think I want to ask the same question to another, ministry, the Ministry of Agriculture. Obviously, the SAF can be produced from agricultural residue. So, what kind of policies or incentives are your ministry, as the Ministry of Agriculture, does it have in place to incentivize people to produce this or go into this business?
Thank you, Dr. Mohab, for this question. First of all, let me think the agriculture is one of the main factors for climate change through the gas emission, and this is mainly carbon dioxide and methane and also nitrous oxide. And this is due to like three factors. One of them is land use and agricultural practices, and also using fertilizer and pesticides. The other factor from livestock breeding and livestock feeding. And the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries implement, some programs that help or that reduce the gas emission. And on the other emit or thus increase the gas emission is using electricity or fossil fuel for machinery, for pumps and other machinery. And now the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, fund to transfer or to shift from electrical or from fossil fuel to use solar system to generate electricity for pumps and also for plant machinery. And also for the other practices, we are trying in agriculture research to do some activity regarding how to use fertilizer and pesticide efficiently, so that we can reduce the gas emission. Regarding the there's also some activities and some programs that's, for example, funded by OQ to grow 200,000 seedlings, plant seedlings, and this is distributed to the agriculture farms, distributed also to the company and other institutions. And also an agreement with video to grow 100,000 plants, and that gives it to video to grow in the desert, so that we can reduce the gas emission.
Thank you very much.
I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. I think here with us, Mariam, you guys at the UAE have, a successful maybe trial of these SAFs with Ittihad. So from your perspective, can you tell us some of the lessons learned, and if you had, how would you grow this experiment?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I think your question should be to Dr. Alejandro. He's the master of that project. Actually, it's his baby. But I think this is one of the promising projects that UAE started in 2009, even before me joining this TA when I was in the airports. So it was a huge investment from His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed when he was Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, when we established Masdar. So this was one of the pioneering projects that our government invested heavily on that, and there was a big land allocated for the project. So it's an investment of 11 years. 11 years mean it's a lot of technology, experiments, and we even the prices dropped from 6 to 1 to 3 to 1 today. However, it's a very still challenging for the aviation sector. You have the energy on the other side, so I'm the aviation sector. However, we still observing that project. We are still trying to keep it alive because it's one of the promising, not just for the UAE. And if Dr. Alejandro explain more, it has different mechanism when it comes to some numbers, like the ILUC number. It was very positive and promising, and we are not destroying any lands. We are not killing any crops, or we are not wasting waters, for example. So it's a different concept that was invested in Masdar. And today, I can tell you that there is number of announced new projects as well in the UAE. Even last week, where we had two big announcements as well between the airlines and the manufacturers and the producers, and ADNOC also has their own announcement. So we are trying to explore the journey with other international organizations, with the technology improvement as well. It's not easy, and I was telling many audience here today, I've been working in this with Jane, I think, since 2010. I was witnessing every single committee, group, working group, meetings, anything with regard to the alternative fuels. Today it's SAF and LCAF. So it's been quite a journey, and things are moving, alhamdulillah, differently in this time of the year. And by the way, my background is not aviation. For those who's wondering, I'm working for the aviation for almost 17 years now, but my background is chemical and petroleum engineering. So I'm so happy that I'm also leading the UAE's LCAP and SAF project. So it's back to my original background. So that's why I understand the processing, what's happening in the production, what's the challenges. And this is a message to even to your youth to step into different disciplines. And we need in this region, you gave me the mic. So I've been chairing the Environment Committee for the last 13 years. And in and out, I don't have females as leaders. And Jane can witness this as well. This region needs more females to step in. I was happy to see Samah today when she did the presentation, honestly, because she was not in the agenda. So we need more ladies, with all the respect to the guys here. We need more ladies to step in, to be part of our journey, because in the region it's only me and few others, 2 or 3. So we need you ladies to step in. This is a promising future for you as well.
Thank you very much, Mariam, for this. Since you mentioned, Jane, you're Director of Environmental Program at ICAO. Maybe you talk to us about the environmental and economic benefits of switching to SAF versus the conventional jet fuel.
Yeah, so thank you. So economic benefits. I think when anything that relates to environment, we no longer talk only about environment. That's a must. We talk about environment, economic, and social. So I would be remiss if I only talk about economic, because it's about the social as well. It's about inclusiveness. Mariam was talking about, we need more female representatives or leaders. We need diversity. And so when we talk about the 3 pillars of sustainability, I think, the environment, the social, the economic, it has to make sense. It has to be something that it's an added value, and it's the 3 wins. It's win, win, and win. So if it's, in my experience, the only things that really worked is when we had these 3 issues aligned. I was very pleased to be called a North Star today, but I think it's about the alignment of the 3 stars. In fact, that's the North. It's when you have social, economic, and environmental benefits that align, because you don't do anything without the right investments. You don't do anything without the people. And if it doesn't make sense on the environment, don't do it. Because this is our main challenge. everything else will fall down because the cost of not doing something for the environment today is much higher than the cost of doing, and the cost of doing is very high. So when we today talk about the environmental benefit or the cost of something, Marian just say, "Oh, we started with 6 to 1, now it's 3 to 1." It's half. In a decade, it's half. I'll give you one example of economic impact. So we do a lot of capacity building projects with green funds, with funds from Europe, etc. And I was honored to do a few projects in Africa, mainly, where we really worked, with states that the first question was SAF, so they didn't know what SAF was. So that is how we started. And in putting together some projects, one of the things we did was with renewable energy. So to save some of the emissions, we were doing electric power to gate. So, an aircraft, and the aircraft is on the gate waiting for the passengers. If it's a domestic flight, that's 45 minutes of running that engine with an EPU or fuel on the ground. It's 2 hours if it's an international flight. And seriously, that you can do with solar in a blink, right? So if what we wanted is to give them some self-efficiency and put solar to gate. In 1 year, I did 2 different projects, one in Jamaica, one in Mombasa, Kenya. The difference in price was half. The difference in the area I had to use, half. Same amount of energy. In 1 year, the technology allowed me to use half of the land for those solar panels and half of the price. So what are we talking about here, about economic impact? I can only tell you, if you invest in cleaner energy, you are investing right. Now, it's not going to happen tomorrow. Today we talk a lot about LCAF. You can have efficiency in what we are doing today, and we know how to do it. So if you can, we talk about the European project now, for them to reach 10%, even in an ambitious project, how long is it going to take? 10% is the difference that we'll have in having LCAF or not. It's 10% of environmental benefits we're talking about. So we have to think about that as a transition. We'll be using some of the existing technologies. We are putting new ones, but is the diversity, is fulfilling the 3 pillars that will really get us there. But don't take me wrong. It is going to take a lot of investment. It's going to cost a lot of money. So the cost will be an issue. And is it going to be passed to the passenger? Yeah, I have not seen, aviation stopping when we got the $100 barrel. I don't have seen aviation, really stopping. What we did was we had a surcharge on the price, cope with the market. And, with fuels, what we are doing is inserting in the price of the air ticket our environmental responsibility. And that has a cost. If you don't do that, you have to adapt. Cost of adaptation, last time we have calculated globally, was 100 times more, and 100 times a lot. So it's a good investment. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane, very much. Before I know we have 3 gentlemen from industry here, Ghalib and Oscar, and from the actual pilots that fly. But maybe Dr. Alejandro, let me address this question to you, since you're the only one from academia in this on this panel. What are the opportunities for collaboration between the government, industry, and academia and other stakeholders, basically, to accelerate the development and deployment, and obviously bring the costs down of SAF?
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation to be in this panel. I think that the opportunities for collaboration among academia, industry, government are enormous. an example of this is, for example, the Sustainable Bioenergy Research Consortium that you were referencing a little while ago is the responsible entity for developing this project, where we take seawater and we use it to irrigate plants that grow on desert land with seawater. These plants are known as halophytes. They are salt-loving plants. All of you know them because you've seen them on the coastal areas. But these, the mangrove is one of the best examples of a halophyte plant. But there's a universe, a big universe of halophyte plants, and these plants have the capacity to produce many things. And so the consortium that has promoted this project is a consortium that originally was formed by Masdar, what was then Masdar Institute of Science and Technology, which is a public university, or was a public university, and is now Khalifa University of Science and Technology. But it got together with Etihad Airways, which is the national airline of the UAE, the Boeing company, which is the largest aircraft manufacturer in the world, and a refining technology company that is called United Oil Products, that belongs to Honeywell. And after that, we had other companies such as GE, the engine manufacturer. We had the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, which is an energy company. We had a German company that has a very big project here in Oman. It's called Bauer Resources. They have a huge project in the Nimr oil field, where they are taking produced water from the oil field and actually treating that water using plants, using reed beds. And so they're purifying the water using a nature-based solution. And so, going back to your original question, I think that the participation of academia, the participation of the private companies, the participation of the government entities, because we've had the support, the unwavering support from the GCAA and from the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment in the UAE. I think that this collaboration is key, and that, in this particular space, in the space of trying to produce sustainable aviation fuel for the world, we need the collaboration of all entities so that we are successful in achieving the goal that has been established, which is to be net zero by year 2050.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alejandro. Maybe I'll move now to Ghalib. I know OQ is involved in a lot of the clean hydrogen, green hydrogen projects, which is obviously an important component of the production of SAF. Obviously, for those of you who don't know, Oman has very ambitious plans to produce 1.25 million tons of green hydrogen per year by 2030. Right now, obviously, like Jane mentioned, cost is a concern. Green hydrogen per kilogram is hovering between $3 to $6 per kilogram. Gray hydrogen less than $1 per kilogram. So, like Jane mentioned, do you think the consumer would be ready to pay 4 or 5 times the price to fly from here to Bangkok? Like our pilot here flew in. And my second question is, do you think the technology is going to mature enough in the next decade or so to bring the price down to be competitive with gray hydrogen? Or, as I have read with a study that an open University of Barcelona just released, is green hydrogen is not going to take off without government subsidies. From your perspective as a energy company.
Thank you, Dr. Mahab. So maybe I will answer the second question first, and then I will come back to the second question. So, as people may be aware that green hydrogen production today is expensive. The numbers that you have quoted, what we are actually even might be seeing elsewhere, that also applies to Oman, I would say it's between $4 to $7 per kilogram of hydrogen. So if you translate that if you compare that to gray hydrogen, as you mentioned, it's probably gray hydrogen costs only fractions of that. But that's also related to the gas price. Okay, so while that may be applicable to Oman, it's not necessarily the case elsewhere, where natural gas prices are actually more expensive. Is the price likely to go down? We tend to believe so. I think that's what the market indications are. Obviously, with this kind of industry, there are a number of challenges. But maybe to answer your question, it's important to break down the green hydrogen value chain and see where reduction is likely to happen. So we have already experienced reductions in the upstream bit, which is the solar and wind. Do we expect to see further reductions? Definitely. But the significance is actually not there. So while we may see reduction there, I don't expect it to be huge over the next 5 to 10 years. The second component of the value chain of green hydrogen is the piece in the middle, which is kind of the black box. Black box in the sense that it's not something that is not mature technology. The electrolyzer has been there for many years. Doing it at scale and integrating it with intermittent supply of power, in terms of solar and wind, is what's going to make it really complicated. What we tend to believe is that that's where the huge reduction is likely to happen. And with the introduction of, or the involvement of a lot of the Chinese manufacturers, which if you compare their prices today to the European, for example, they probably are going to go half of what the Europeans are actually quoting today. So we do believe that there is a huge potential for reduction. Ammonia, if you go through the route of green molecules, ammonia is an ammonia. So we have built plans. Do we expect reduction there? It's not a big anyway. So bet a lot on the electrolyzer, but we have to be also aware that it's not only Oman is not the only country that's actually developing green hydrogen projects. So there will be a crunch trying to compete to place a position for electrolyzer almost around the same time, including the projects that are actually going to happen here in Oman. So it's yet to see. While I tend to believe that there will be a reduction, and I think but closer to 2030, I would like to believe that there will be huge reduction when it comes to the prices of hydrogen. Now, and maybe that makes my job easier to answer the first question: is that going to be translated to consumers? If you build anything today, okay, at scale, then you do expect that the price to be really high. Now, somehow that will need to be absorbed either by, if you go through SAF, for example, either by airlines or, God forbid, the consumers. So, and that's something that we try not to be passed on to the consumers. But as a producer, I will need to find a customer for it. And my customer is going to be the airlines in this case.
For this very pragmatic answer. Oscar, I think maybe introduce what you do first and your company, and then my question to you is, what are the latest developments in SAF's production technology?
Yeah, very good. So, good afternoon. It's always difficult with the travel, what time it is, but good afternoon. My name is Oscar Meiring. I'm working for a company called Sky Energy. We are in the space of sustainable aviation fuel, obviously. We have been around for over 15 years, and we were founded in 2009 already to trade and to create the market of sustainable aviation fuel. If you think about the Netherlands, where we're from, we're a trading country. So we started as a trading company and now slowly developing into a production company as well. So we're aiming to create more supply because we see that there's way too little of this product available. So we're trying to develop new production facilities, both in the Netherlands, where we're based, but also in other regions, such as here in Oman. So that's why we're here today, discussing with many stakeholders on this side of the table, but also very side of the table, where there's a lot of young talent, because that's, just before answering the question, very important to mention that we, especially in Europe, have a big crunch on talent, right? So we are getting old very quickly. I see myself still as a young person, but across this side, there's a lot more young talent, which is great, because where we're getting very gray, there's also a diminishing amount of people being able to work on the engineering and on the technical side. And we need a lot of that, because we need to develop a lot of new facilities to get on the challenge of climate change. So having said all that, on the topic of SAF, we see a number of things. Right? At the moment, you can produce this fuel relatively easily, I should say, by using, for example, used cooking oil. So with used cooking oil, you can use existing technologies that are very similar as typical refining technologies, and refine these products into sustainable aviation fuel. But there's not enough feedstock available. There's just not enough used cooking oil in the world. So we need other technologies, and then we're looking at feedstocks such as biomass, agricultural residues, municipal solid waste, that you can also convert into sustainable aviation fuel, but with a little bit more complex technologies. So there we're doing a lot of research with universities, knowledge institutes, our technology providers, to understand whether we can use these technologies and what they need to commercialize these technologies. And then the third pillar is obviously e-fuels, where we can use renewable hydrogen as well as CO2, hopefully in the future directly captured from the air. That's still a bit further out, but that's definitely an area to keep an eye on, because I think both direct air capture, but also natural capturing of CO2 through plants, through biocrudes, as we call them, are very interesting technologies that we can use to revolutionize the topic of SAF. And we need all these pathways eventually parallel to each other to decarbonize the aviation industry.
Thank you very much, Oscar, for that. So last but not least, we get to our pilot, Mauricio. So I have two questions for you. One is just it's my naive question. I'll take that offline with you. Yeah. I mean, it's like, okay, this is just a naive question that I always had. Is it like if you fill up your plane with SAF versus jet fuel, the conventional, is it like driving a V8 versus electric? Do you feel any difference in the sky? That's one question. Another question is your role as a pilot or a pilot union. What are your roles to basically help lobby the industry to move towards SAF or low carbon fuels?
Yeah, welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. Regarding the first easy question, no, there is no difference. Same. For us as pilot, as my career is 15 years, almost 20 years on the local. I was in 3 years with the Tehran Salam. We are really trained, and we are let's say, really focus on fuel efficiency. We are trying our best to reduce as much as possible our fuel consumption, because overall the cost for the airlines for the fuel is roughly now, we're speaking about 60-70% of the total cost. So every kilos that we are saved at the end of the day is a big saving for the company. And as well, how normally the airline and how normally the locals, they are able to make the fare on the lower price, because they are really focusing on fuel efficiency. As a pilot in my job in the office as well is a fuel specialist. I'm the bad guy monitoring all the pilot about the fuel efficiency. So sometimes it happened that we just need to release some bulletins on the area that we need to improve. But I should say, in the airline overall, no matter if it's a low cost or national airlines, the fuel efficiency is there. It's one of the major points. Definitely, there are areas that need to be improved in terms of airport organization, in terms of maybe ATC improvement and so on. But I should say on this area, Middle East overall, I can see very good fuel efficiency on the airlines. I think the only main concern, connecting as well to the other speakers, is as well the availability at the moment. For a small company, like relatively small company like Salamer, we don't have any fuel, any SAF available in our network. So for us as well, that maybe we want to be the pioneer to introduce the SAF in our company. We are willing as well to take some, let's say, risk, or to pay from our side the improvement. but at the moment we don't have any airport that they are providing us with SAF fuel. This is, I think, the major limitation on our network. And on the other side, I just came back as well last month for a meeting in UK. They were saying that officially they are expecting by 2035 when the SAF, or 2040 when the SAF will be really implemented on a big amount. They are expecting the average cost of the ticket to almost double. That's, again, I should say that for us as a line, yes, we need to take some of this increment by implementing some efficiency from on the other side as well. The industry and the government, they need to give us a kind of not support, but try to understand as well the requirement that the airline need to grow in order as well to be efficient. Otherwise, again, I don't want to travel from one place to other place to the double of the price. This is not only for our company, this is the airline in general.
Much for that. Maybe before we move on, are there any questions from the audience that you would like to ask our panelists? Yeah, we have some questions.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. My name is Ali Ta'i, and I'm currently a senior aviation management student. And I'm actually doing my final project in regards of implementation of SAF in Oman. So my questions go to His Excellency Engineer Naif Al-Abri. I have 3 questions. The first question is, where have we reached in the implementation of SAF in Oman aviation industry? The second question is, what are the factors that influence the cost of SAF in Oman? And the third question is, what is your plan for 2050, where we all know that 2050, the world is aiming to reach zero emissions? That's it.
Shukran. It's one question. My perspective, I think we are in the first steps when it comes to Oman. I have to be very honest in this. It's a long journey. It's a step. I think we are in the first baby steps when it comes to our road into SAF. This is from an aviation perspective. I don't want to disregard. There's a lot of initiatives already by the energy sector that's being pursued. I think gradually, and this is probably the first platform that sectors in Oman are getting together to talk about a specific topic, which is SAF/Al-Kaf. So I think we are on the first road. I hope that we meet after a year and you ask me the same question. Hopefully I will have much more content to tell you what we have progressed by then. This is my optimistic. I think where will we be in 2050? I think we will reach far. My focus today is about building talent. This is for me number one priority. Building talent is key. We have great examples in our region. Yeah, this did not come in a day or two, but we have the vision. Okay, اليوم alhamdulillah, we have a good small team that is committed, that is as young as you are, which we're going to be very much grooming them into the role of the SAF. This is of course CEA, but at the same time, again, there is a lot of talent that's coming from different sectors, from transport sector, from energy sector, from the research and development sector. This is also, from the academia side, and that's exactly why we have academics that's also attending these 2 days, and even the Minister of Higher Education and Research was and Innovation was here today. We believe we are setting the platform. By 2050, I think we'll be far. I also have another vision, okay, that the region can and will be the leader in this. As much as it's seen to be contributing to pollutions of aviation, on the same side, I think it has huge potential of playing a key role in the aviation arena, especially the GCC countries I'm talking about. And that's exactly the presence of our colleagues, from UAE, from Saudi. They're also attending here because they have, high aspirations. UAE, for example, is, hosting the CAF 3, which is, probably the biggest, gathering after the assembly, talking specifically about the fuel and what have you. And this is the next month, inshallah. So this is also an aspiration I think that we can and should play as well. So we should be an active members. We should play active roles. This will be done through the Omani talents, if you talk about Oman, yani. But the same goes to UAE and Saudi and Qatar and the likewise. Yeah.
Thank you very much for this answer. I think you had a question. Introduce yourself, your name, and from which entity you are.
Okay, sure. My name is Isa Zekwani. I'm also a senior aviation management student, and I actually have two questions, one for Mr. Khamis and the other for His Excellency. So we'll start with Mr. Khamis. Sorry, engineer or Mr.
His Excellency.
His Excellency, all right. So as a policymaker, you mentioned that Oman is committed to the 2050 net zero. So 2050, I say that it is like too far. What are the checkpoints that we need to accomplish until we reach 2050? What I mean by this is this year's plan, next year's plan. So in order to achieve this big goal of 2050 net zero. And that was my first question. My second question goes to His Excellency. And you just mentioned to my colleague that your goal is to develop talents and focus on us, the next generation. So are there any plans from you to introduce incubation centers and innovation centers to incubate the researches that are being done by my colleagues and other many students in this important area, so that their projects are not being focused on? There should be an incubation center to incubate these projects and focus on them so that they can be implemented into reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, we do have. We have a clear roadmap. In fact, we have two roadmaps because we have two strategies. We have the National Decarbonization Strategy, which is the 2050 net zero. And we also work in the government, which we are part of the team, on the National Strategy for Energy as well, where we also discussed the future alternatives for energy to resource the country. The roadmap contain yearly targets and also 5-year targets. For example, for the EVs, introducing EVs into the country, we have a few targets or KPI. One of them is that all the new purchase for the new car by 2035 should be 35%. So 35% by 2035 should be EVs, electric cars, or zero emission vehicles. Okay. We have also other targets when it comes to introducing fuel cell, hydrogen. There is also targets regarding the reduction in the emission when it comes to the maritime as well. Yeah. So there is a set of KPIs that we are going to monitor ourselves to decide whether we are on the right track or not. Now, this roadmap, we review it every year. We kicked it off last year. I think last month we had another lab, set of workshops where we review, and also we renewed also the set of the initiatives. So I think there are good measures in place to witness ourselves. Yeah. Shukran.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I think your next question was about an incubate. How can the CEA help incubate these ideas, right?
So we look at we position ourselves as a policymaker and a regulator in this whole profile of SAF, for example. And therefore, we should also be an enabler of the industry getting together with the academia and the students and what have you. I think such event in the next 2 days hopefully will come out with some sort of recommendations. How do we ensure that there is talent building moving forward? Tomorrow, you know, so tomorrow we're signing already a memorandum of understanding with Sky Energy and OQ to dwell into the details of, how does the industry get the SAF on board in Oman. So this is only one, and alhamdulillah, it's an outcome of this, event as well. But there are more to come. I think in general, the industry themselves would need the talent as they come forward. It wouldn't be CEA because we're the policymaker. We are an enabler. The industry moving forward, they will need all the researchers. They will need the R&D that is needed. They will need the students to come up with the new, innovative ideas. اليوم, today we just, passing quickly in the exhibition. We've seen great ideas that can be materialized, with the right incubation, with the right support, with the right then client and off-taker. These are the opportunities that, inshallah, we are very much positive about, and we will ensure that this is part and parcel of our roadmap going forward.
I think His Excellency Engineer Khamis had just to follow up.
On the incubation, I think a lot of entities now are working to that direction. So just to add on what His Excellency mentioned, we also in the Ministry of Transport, we also incubate a few initiatives. One of them is between SKU, Sultan Qaboos University, and Muwasalat to use biodiesel. We already, the university, through also young talents like you, maybe some of them are here, yeah? And they were girls, by the way, yeah? So they produce good amount of fuel from dates, palm dates seeds, and it is used by Muwasalat, and will continue on that. And also we will continue between Sultan Qaboos University, Muwasalat, and Waqood to continue on commercializing that. Yeah, so producing more volume maybe, and committing ourselves through Muwasalat as an arm for the government when it comes to land transportation to basically to offtake some of that production. So this will help us to also to bring maybe the cost down, because today if you compare the cost of the liter that the students produce is around 600 paisa compared to the liter of diesel, which is 200 to 90. So there's already like a double of the cost. So we need to help, and as a government, I think we are here to enable such initiatives. There's another one that we are also incubating and taking ownership with another SME, which is introducing the co-combustion type of engine. The hybrid use. We're mixing the use of diesel with biodiesel or biofuel, and we had already a trial on that. And the good thing that modification of the truck itself is not that expensive, but we just need to prove maybe the efficiency of that. And I just came from South Korea, visit South Korea and some other places where I saw a 100% implementation of what we are talking about here. Yeah, but again, with a lot of subsidy from the government, a lot. Yeah. But there is, at least it tells you that there's a clear roadmap on this by many countries already. Yeah, so I think this is very positive and very encouraging as well. Just to add upon the incubation. فأي واحد منكم عنده initiatives, please don't worry. كلمونا كليتنا. Yeah, we'll take care of that. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I think that's actually a regional challenge, how you get ideas from the lab bench and into the commercialization stage. And this is where the incubators and accelerators come into play. Jane, you wanted to add something?
It's because as we are talking, so many ideas start coming up. Of course, incubators are key in discussions in other regions of the world. One of the things that we have been talking about in the sense of this global framework that we want to create for the transition of aviation to cleaner energies. Incubators have come a few times into the discussions. How could we facilitate technology transfer, distribution of good practices, really new ideas to come in. And incubators is one of the things you can do. As you were talking, and I was thinking about, again, our arrival here today and this avalanche of ideas that we were seeing from the youth. And I was really thinking, some of them, if you're from another region, you would not, we thought about seeds, but, we don't have the same fruits. We don't have the same. So, so many different ideas. And you see, on the TV, we have sometimes this program that is the Shark Tank. I don't know if you have Shark Tank here. It's when young people or people come and they present their business, and then either they fail or they don't fail. It's a very rush thing. It's a program. We could have the Eagle Nest, where people would come and present to some investors. Why not bring the youth to do that? This is another possibility that we would have. So do panels or a round of business for youth. So those that are thinking about those projects, they come, they present, and investors then bet. You have a grant per year, you have a pool of investors. Let's invest in that idea or that idea. That's just food for thought. The other thing that I don't want to leave this panel without mentioning, sharing good practices amongst the youth is one of the most important things we can do. What you're doing here, students or youth in Europe or in North America, South America, they don't know. And you have to connect yourselves. You all are so into your phones, into connectivity with everything. So you now can participate in groups so easily. So let me tell you, in 2021 in ICAO, we were doing what we do every year now for the LTAG. Now it's for LTAG, before it was just for energy. It's the stock taking. And in this stock taking, we were talking about how to engage the youth. And we brought a big panel of young people to, very talented ones to talk about that and to incentivize them to get together. And they did. And they created an international association. It's a foundation of young youth, professionals in aviation to do exactly that, to push forward their requirements to this side of the room, to share their ideas, etc. So it's very important. It's called SAFE, but it's not safe like safety. It's Sustainable Aviation Youth SAFE Foundation. So Sustainable Aviation Youth Foundation, the SAFE, is already ongoing, and you should be part of it. Your academia, your young professionals, associations, aviation, energy, everybody should be part of it and share with them the ideas. They are pushing forward so many ideas. So there's so much to be done. But it's no, incubators is one of them. But because you don't have incubators, that doesn't mean you cannot do that as well. While you think about incubators, because it's a very good idea.
Now, again, I know we're talking about SAF, but there are other, for example, I know I'm not an expert, His Excellency can correct me, but I think the majority of emissions from the aviation sector is from short-haul flights. So what Boeing and NASA are collaborating on now is a new kind of wing on planes. I think it's called the truss wing, that is going to reduce emissions by 30%. So it's not just about using a different fuel, but tweaking the design of what we already have can also have energy efficiency and cost saving. And it's the same with the way with these buildings. It was a professor from the German university who said, by simply tweaking the buildings that we build right now, we can reduce the energy consumption by up to 70%. So we don't really need to go out of our way and find something else. It's just tweaking what we already have right now. I don't know if you, any other questions from the, yeah, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. This is me, Sharif Abdul Al-Hadrami. I'm a fresh graduator from MCBS. My question is for Excellency Mr. Naif Al-Abdi. As you play a role in SAF, do you think of other emissions that can come from the noise emission or the carbon dioxide, and also for the emission that come from the engine itself? As you play, or you can, for example, you can buy a new engine which is ultra high bypass engine, which is less emissions and less carbon dioxide and so on.
It took me 20 years back when I used to do that. Noise abatement in general, that's probably a little bit a different topic. So we have been focusing on noise abatement here in Oman, just to reduce, because our airport really is in mid of the town, which is probably in other areas, the airports are a little bit distant. So we've been focusing how do we reduce the noise for the public that's around us here. And we've taken a lot of measures with that operationally, but also that helped, for example, Oman Air, Salam Air bringing in the newer fleets of the aircraft, which by default has done a lot of advancement in the design of these airplanes. Anyway, we're talking about without marketing for any of the, the 787s, the A350s, and the newer airplanes. The design of the nacelles, if you see now, they look so much different than they used to be before. So that's a lot of it is the aerodynamics, and that's a lot of it is what noise reduction and abatement. The use of carbon fiber as well has made huge, difference. For example, majority of 787, for example, is carbon fiber, right? Trust me, the maintenance people don't like it because you don't see the crack. Okay, but from a weight perspective and fuel efficiency, around 20% at least. You're talking about huge money when you talk about 20% reduction of fuel efficiency. I think if you look at the advancement of technology in aviation, probably we are the fastest. And, we've done so much in technological advancement and redesigns. And really credit goes to a lot of it is the manufacturers. Huge. When you talk about the CO2s that used to be versus now, from an aircraft perspective, huge advancement. But is it enough for the aviation sector? No. The aspiration is much, still continues, and the aspiration is to become kind of the green sector in there. So all these technological advancement, it brings a portion of it. But let's face it, SAF/LCAF goes around 60% of the contribution to the LTAG and the net zero by 2050. And that's where this focus is on the fuel itself. The rest comes also from the efficiency in air navigation, for example, redrawing all these routes that from an airplane takes from A to B, for example. Can it be shorter? Can the altitude be higher? And this is again, Oman is actually doing this. We are redrawing our routes in Oman or Muscat al-Fayar. There's a lot of other stuff that probably we are not talking about today, but that are happening from a manufacturer perspective, airport perspective, even the infrastructure, for example, and from also navigation and other technologies that are probably maybe bringing the other 40% of the contribution to the net zero. And these are a lot of it, studies that have been analyzed, and scenario planning, scenario analysis, the sensitivities of what if this doesn't work, what if that doesn't work. these are all probably put in a lot of reports and that has been already produced by ICAO and the other team. Which one is that?
I just want to clarify something here. Aviation is a very unique sector. When we talk about the aviation mission on reaching the net zero, it's not within the boundary of the state. It's not Oman alone. It's not UAE alone. It's international mission. So if I will do my part and Oman doesn't do it, we will not reach the same goal. So it's a huge investment happening everywhere. And coming back to your question, why we don't change the engine? Imagine Emirates Airline changing the engines. How much we have to pay? Etihad. I'm talking about the UAE because we are the third polluters in the aviation emission. We are the third in the world after United States and China, and we have the most youngest fleet in the world at the same time. We have almost more than 20 380 and other 777s and new fleets also. I have 7 airlines, by the way, in the UAE, not just the 2 famous ones. So imagine every engine we change because we want just to cope with the new production of Airbus and Boeing. And today there was an interesting session. I hope you attended that. When they're talking about the new production, that it will be 100% or 50% compatible with the SAF usage. But for investor, it's not easy to go and yes, we will put the order and we purchase. No, it's a huge investment. And the sector already invested a lot in its growth. So as it's 3 pillars: economic, social, and environmental as well. So we need to make sure that we are not restricting the sector. I used to be very, how to say it? When I started the career as an environmentalist, I was like fighting everyone. I joined the Dubai airports in 2007 and was like knocking the doors and telling them, you need to stop flying because of the noise. I mean, the Dubai airport is in the center of the city. But when you grow, when you learn more, when you become wise, you understand that climate change is not just to be just passionate about it. You have to be careful as well. We need to drive all the pillars together. So this region, I will talk about this region as I'm working on this region for the last 13 years. I will keep telling that. This region is doing a lot, honestly. This region is doing more than the other regions that you might be hearing. That when we started the introduction, we were talking about the e-fueling. With all the respect to my colleague on the other side, yes, they have the regulation, the e-fueling, but what they are doing on the ground, we do more. They have opposed a lot of taxation on us, lots of regulation, but we don't need to have a regulation to do what we have to do. So we are committed globally with the ICAO. We are committed to the net zero of the aviation sector. We are committed to the CORSIA. We don't need more other regions to oppose their own regulation on us because there's only one single organization authorized, which is ICAO, sitting here. Others, sorry to say, are not accepted for this region because they are killing our investment. They are killing our future. So we need to work together in this region along with other regions, which has a similar nature of this region. When I say region, this is a confusion as well because ICAO's description is different than my description. This region means the Arab region, the 22 states, or the Middle East with ICAO. So you need to educate yourself what's happening in your neighbors, in your next region, like African regions, because we have similarity in the growth. Yes, different countries have different maturities in the aviation. You don't compare, for example, Bahrain with a small operation with the UAE. It's not fair to them, and although they are excluded from CORSIA. So you need to understand what's happening in the global arena, as Jane said, connect yourself with international community. And this is what I did when I joined Jane in 2010. And she keeps saying, you were so scared. I was so scared. I didn't have a clue what's happening in ICAO. So the first thing I did, I joined Jane in first CARE meeting. I connected myself with all the experts, more than 500 experts, to learn from them. So the communication, the network will enrich your knowledge more than just sitting in the universities or in the office. So this is also my advice, to connect yourself more. And this is also an invitation to attend CAF. We're having CAF 3. We have to promote CAF. It's in our region. So it's happening in our region. CAF is the Conference of Aviation Alternative Fuel. It's not a UAE just event. It's this region event. And we will be doing also live stream just to make sure that everyone is joining us in that important discussion for the aviation field. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariam. We have a little less than 10 minutes. I just want to give the panel maybe a minute or so for some closing remarks. Maybe we start with you, Ghalib, if you want to have some closing remarks in less than a minute. We have 8 minutes. Okay, we'll take a last question. Sure.
My name is Anwar Rafi from ATC. How can we balance between aircrafts? You hear me? No. Okay. How can we balance between trying to reduce the negative things of orders like Saudi Arabia is doing, Emirates are buying Emirates, Qatari, inshallah also. So how can we balance? Because whether you gain something, you lose something. I hope it's an easy question.
Maybe in 2 minutes, if you can answer that.
But the first time, I don't know what you mean. We are working in the same field. I'm not from the manufacture of aviation. Okay, it's a very tough question because from the UAE perspective, we are one of the largest aviation sector in the world, and we are one of the largest polluter in the world. We are one of the most aggressive country now when it comes to the aviation net zero. We just introduced aviation net zero last year. We announced our SAF roadmap this year. We are in the pipeline with the Prime Minister Office to issue our SAF policy with the targets, which is a bit aggressive. We were in discussion with the Ministry of Climate Change. They will be introducing mid goals. This is answering one of the questions here. But is aviation going that aggressive? So for us to be balanced and it's a reputation thing, honestly, because UAE is committed globally to be part of any international climate change deal. Because if we are not part of that deal, there is going to be like a huge carbon leakage because of our operation. So we are trying to build it in a very balanced way. Dubai Airports introduced their strategy for net zero 2 years ago. Emirates Airline is working on their as well. Journey for us, honestly. So this is your role to show your leaders as well. We want to move forward. We want to make it happen, but in very balanced and gradually. You don't have to jump. You don't have to jump because Europe announced 10% SAF. You don't have the infrastructure.
We have to basically see what fits. There's no one size fits all.
No, so but we have to be careful as well. Yes, because their infrastructure started 15 years ago. That's why we need to be slowing down, understanding what's happening, and we have to have our voice as well. So this is kind of balance, I think.
Thank you, Mariam. I know you have a lot of questions. There will be some refreshments afterwards, so you can maybe mingle and ask them questions. But I want to give the panel, if you have any closing remarks, maybe start with you. Have like 5 minutes or 30 seconds.
30 seconds. I just want to maybe a message to the youth, and we are also youth, by the way. So, okay, so. I want you to stay hopeful that Oman has what it takes to be really, a competitive place for the production of SAF in this region. We have quality resources, wind, solar resources, specifically on the ESAF front. We can drive the cost. If there is a place where we can definitely drive the cost down when it comes to green hydrogen, it is Oman. and I compare it to the region here, I think we do have what it takes. The production of SAF is not something. I mean, it's a synthetic fuel at the end that will need to be processed. We have been operating, oil and gas and refining business for many years. The first, refinery in Oman was built in 1982. So we do have the capability, but we need more of that capability if we really want to grow this industry. So, we have new infrastructure. We have the ports, and His Excellency, maybe can second that. We have new ports, new infrastructure, new facilities in Oman that we can definitely capitalize, not only to produce it here, but to actually export this product elsewhere. So I just wanted to leave you with these kind of comments.
Thank you, Dr. Alhamdulillah. You have any 30 seconds or less?
Yes, just to reiterate what was said earlier, all of this is not going to happen without you. So you are the future. You have the opportunity. It's yours for the taking. So I would encourage all of you to work hard, because this is going to be created by you.
Mauricio, maybe what is your tips for the best destinations this time of year?
No, I just want to say, as Oscar was saying, for us in Europe, we are getting old very soon. So I think it's really your turn. I come from the university. My background is aerospace engineer as well. So I think all the innovation and all the future is based on your research. So never stop research, never, especially on this country where you have a very good support from the university, I'm sure. Continue your research, and I'm sure that 2040, 2050, it looks far away, but we really need to start working and researching in order to achieve altogether the 2015 net zero.
Oscar?
Yes, thank you very much. I'll be here tomorrow as well, so feel free to come up to me to ask any questions that you may have. I just wanted to encourage sort of the collaboration between the regions, right? We're very much here from Europe, but not here to say what you need to do or anything like that. We are very eager to develop something here locally, create jobs locally here, and the policy in Europe is just there to eventually export that product if needed, and to pay that difference if needed as well. So just wanted to call on that collaborative element, and very nice to be here.
Thank you, Oscar.
I'll just echo what Ghalib said. We do have what it takes, and when and you are one of what it takes, by the way. Yeah, when the oil and gas era started, we were gifted by the resources, and we utilized it the best. We have maybe one of the top talents when it comes to the oil and gas across the world. Now a new era is coming. It's the renewables, it's the clean energy, and we have what it takes also to be also one of the top in leading this new era. So please, just be part of this. It's a journey. There is a choice that we wait, but we have not decided to wait. We decided to be part of this. Yeah. صلى يوفقكم جميعا. شكرا.
Thank you very much.
And the way I look at this as well is that this region has been a leader in exporting crude oil and what have you. I think it can also be the leader in exporting SAF and the LCAF in the future. That's how I look at it. And the fact that you're here, we want you to be part of this, what's going to come in the future. Inshallah, you become, the innovators in whatever we aspire for. Honestly speaking, I have no doubt that this region has the full potential in becoming the leader for whatever we aspire for aviation. So I wish you all the best to be part of it, inshallah.
Thank you, Jane. In like 10 seconds or less, because we're over time.
Yes, my message is very clear. Join aviation. You can be whatever you want in our sector. We have space for, good talent, with those with grit, and grit is very important. Grit is to do something with a purpose. If you believe in sustainable aviation, join aviation, because we will need you. Learn every day. Nobody knows everything. I learn every day. be humble and learn every day. Listen to the others attentively and learn.
Thank you. So learn, Dr. Hamdan. You have 7 seconds.
Maybe agriculture is far away from what you are talking about, but from agriculture sector, from agriculture side, there is activity, there's programs, there's research, on how to reduce gas emission, and you are welcome if you have any proposal, any idea regarding the agriculture. You are welcome to work with agriculture research.
5 seconds. 5 seconds. Done? You're going to say something?
I will just comment on Jane's point. Was the same point that you need to learn. It's not just about aviation. Invest in your soft skills, please. It's not about just academia certification. It's about you. Your personality should rise. So please invest in yourself. 13 years ago, and Jane can witness this, I was so shy person. I was scared. I had limited knowledge in aviation climate change. Today, I'm really proud that I'm a state lead negotiator for the last 13 years. So it didn't happen overnight. I used to read a lot. She keep giving me K papers in 2010 to read. So read, and aviation is a very dynamic field. You can learn every day, as she said. So you are all welcome from different disciplines to join the sector.
So learn, get involved, and let's soft skills, absolutely invest in yourself. So thank you. Let's give these fine panelists a round of applause. And thank you all for joining us. And please, there's refreshments. I'm sure you can mingle with the panelists there. So please help yourself. And thank you very much for joining us again.